Gym Teacher Dreams coming back from NBA Thursday here. So once again, we've got three of our regulars with Coach Beinborn, Coach Boardman, and myself. And then we have Coach Conroy back on the podcast. He's going to help us out as we at least try to get through the second round of our, hypothetical all our generation NBA tournament. So with that being said, welcome guys. Are we ready to roll?
Yep.
All right, so we had the first round. We finished the first round last time, and our first matchup's a good one here. So let's show it here. And our first matchup of the day for all of you, we have the Lakers versus the Raptors. So Lakers were the #1 seed overall. The Raptors were 16. They beat the Nuggets in a simulation and by us regulars. So just to keep up with the lineups here. Okay, so the Lakers there, we got Magic, Byron, Scott, Kobe, James Worthy, Jabbar, and then Fisher, Nixon, Cooper, Wilkes, and O'Neal. And the Raptors are going to be, they've got Kyle Lowry, DeRozan, Carter, Bosch, Valalusis, whatever, Stoudemire, Van Fleet, Peterson, Christie, and how do you say his name too? I'm bad with last name.
Siakam.
There we go.
And it's Valanciunas.
Valanciunas. There we go. Valanciunas. I just know that he you know what? He's got his hands full in this matchup. So, Mark, we'll start with you here. What do you got for this matchup?
Well, before you pulled up the rosters, I was going to tell you just let's skip even looking at the rosters because, I mean, Toronto's got Valanciunas as their starting center, and the Lakers have Shaquille as their backup. That's number one. In my mind, before you even show the roster, all I could think of was Vince, Kyle Lowry, basically the first four starters, as far as, and none of them compare to great players. And where's, well, I guess why would Kawhi not, just because it was
because he'd only been there a year, so he's on the Spurs. So we didn't see him last time.
Yeah. So, with that, they just don't have the horsepower to match up with that team.
Yeah. Coach Conroy?
Yeah, I don't know. When I look at it, I think it's a no-brainer. I love Coach's comment that O'Neal is a backup. Like, yeah, I know you got to put Jabbar in there as a starter, but oh my goodness, if you could have him as the backup, and then you look at some of the other guys and the length and the length and the athleticism of their starting five versus the Bucks. Or versus the Raptors, no way.
Ray, Coach Boardman?
Agree, for all the same reasons.
As this goes on, as you envision, if we're talking best, can O'Neal and Jabbar play together in this NBA? Young Shaquille could probably match up with some fours, I would imagine. So that, you got Kobe there. Adding Kobe to that Showtime Laker teams make them awful good. So, yeah, I agree. I think the guards maybe could try to stay with the Lakers, but they don't have enough. Their bench, just doesn't provide enough. So we'll move the Lakers right on and move on. All right, Blazers-Pistons, 8-9 matchup. This one is going to be fun. So, Coach Conroy, you imagine the Pistons, the bad boy Pistons, and we're adding this over. Grant Hill, and someone else.
Chauncey, I remember Chauncey.
Yeah, Chauncey's in there with them.
Ben Wallace, wasn't he?
Yeah. So, let's see. So the Pistons, we just decided Isaiah Joe Dumars, Grant Hill, Rodman, Andre Drummond, big time Chauncey Billups, Rip, Stackhouse, Big Ben, and Lane Beer, going against a good Blazer team that has Damon, Brandon Roy, Clyde, Mo Lucas, Terry Porter, C.J. McCollum, Kersey, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Sabonis. So if we need to go back, Ken, but this one's an interesting matchup. Coach Conroy, we'll start with you this time.
Well, I think I got to go with the Bad Boy Pistons, because if we're talking about generational, I don't know. I should have probably asked you, joining you guys today for the first time, what the rules are. We playing under the old rules or the new rules? Because this is a game when I look at that Pistons lineup, that game is going to stay under 100 points, And when I look at their opponent, I see a lot of offensive weapons, but I'm not sure if I see guys that can dominate over the defensive stoppers that the Pistons have. So I guess as a defensive-minded coach, I'm going with the Pistons.
All right, Ray.
It's funny that you did bring that up, Coach, because it came up a few times in round one. Is what rules are we playing by? And it did come up with the Bad Boy Pistons. And I agree with you. I go Bad Boy Pistons, but another interesting thing is about half of this Blazer roster played against the Bad Boy. Not half, but Clyde did, Terry Porter did, Jerome Kersey. So a good portion of the Blazers team played against the Bad Boy Pistons. But I just think the Bad Boy Pistons, I think they would be able to play a couple different styles if it came down to it. But if they get to play their style, they're going to be a tough team to beat. I go with the Pistons.
This one's a tough one for me. I think the Bad Boy Pistons, and like I said, you had Drummond and Grant Hill. That Grant Hill is a key for them. That's a guy that can really score. I like this Blazer team. I think they got the toughness to be able to compete with the Pistons. And they got plenty of guys who can score. So it's an 8-9 matchup, and I don't know. I like the Blazers. I'm gonna go with the Blazers. It's very even. The Bad Boy Pistons are very good defensively, but I like this Blazer team. Lillard's not scared of anyone. I think Brandon Roy can really score. Drexler, that'd be a good matchup with Drexler if Hill they match up. I think coming off the bench, the Blazers got some guys who are tough with Kersey and Marcus Eldridge can score. Sabonis, even though the NBA got old Sabonis, not the great Sabonis. Terry Porter, another tough guy. I like the Blazers in this one. So, Mark, who do you got?
I wish I could help you out and cause some controversy. So I was hoping we'd have it, but I can't go against that Pistons team. I think this Pistons team is seeded lower than they should be. Again, we talked about last week with this group, there's a lot of champions on this team. There's a lot of winners on this team. So Coach talked about defense. Well, one, defensively, again, you have the toughness. You throw Ben Wallace into the mix with the Bad Boys. You throw Rip into there. Again, you know how I feel about Chauncey. I love Chauncey. So you have Isaiah, one of the best point guards of all time. You got Chauncey, who's a proven winner, great leader, hits big shots, just does a lot of things as a player, as a point guard. And I love Dame, and I think Dame's probably more dangerous than any of them as far as an individual scoring standpoint and how he can score. But they don't have the same depth. They don't have, again, the same defensive prowess. Now, again, Brandon Roy, I think, is an X factor because you have Dame, Clyde, and Brandon. And Brandon, people forget about how special I think he was because it was such a short career. But we talked about we're getting all these players kind of at their best in the NBA, and so that's dangerous. But I don't think they have the depth when you go all the way through. There's a lot of scoring power in that initial, group of guards, but I don't think they have enough to beat that Pistons team and the defense and the toughness and again the scoring power on that Pistons team.
Yeah, I was pretty even, but I was probably more towards Pistons. But I wanted to see if we could have good discussion. So, all right, Pistons moving on. All right, our next matchup, we've got the 5 seed, the Heat, versus the 12 seed, the Suns. So we'll get to the lineups here. Heat, Suns. All right, Suns are right there, so we'll show them first. So the Suns go Steve Nash, Walter Davis, Sean Marion, Tom Chambers, Amari Stoudemire, KJ, Barbosa, Thunder Dan, Booker, and Ayton. So little man. They've got a couple young guys to go with the our generation guys, and the Heat. Now, Coach Conroy, just let you know, a player could only be on one team, so I kind of put them where I felt like they played the best or made the big difference. Oh, and we moved some guys around as well too. So that's where we've come in. So the Heat, right here, and they got Goran, D Wade, Glenn Rice. Now, Mark, and I agree. Haslam, we decided is going to be on the bench and either go small with Battier or maybe Bam or someone else. But Cycli, Steve Smith, Eddie Jones, Battier, Adebayo, oh gosh, I'm terrible, and Whiteside. So that is the matchup. And whose turn? Ray, your turn to start this one.
Well, I think this, again, came up last time. I just like how the Heat would be able to play, spreading the floor. Glenn Rice, shooter. D Wade could drive and dish, and D Wade's one of those guys who could carry a heavy load. I believe D Wade at his best, and I think we also mentioned that this would be a decent team defensively. With Battier being able to defend a few different positions and things like that. I'm Heat in this matchup.
My first thing is, as I look at it, is depending on the matchups, can the Heat once again? I think someone talked about the Heat, really getting after it and putting ball pressure. I don't know if they have a point guard to do that, and so I'm wondering, can the Heat handle Steve Nash and KJ one-on-one, which I don't think so. And so then both teams, the same way in terms of they got shooters, that can make shots, put them in a corner and let some of their guys with the ball handle it. And then it comes down to, some guys inside, Cycli, Bam, Whiteside. Tom Chambers was, kind of a stretch four before it was cool. And then Amari time, I'm going opposite again. I'm going Suns. I like Steve Nash. I like KJ. I think that with Amari inside, and once again, kind of that toughness that that hopefully, and then they got Sean Marion, Walter Davis also. So Book coming off, playing that combo guard, and Barboza. I think the Suns going to run up and down. Will be a fun game. I'm not sure about the defense of Walter Davis. Can he handle Dwayne Wade? But if we need to, we can move Marion to him and get a bigger guy in him. So I'm going Suns. So Mark, what do you got?
I'm going Suns also. I just think that that Heat team, D Wade is a special player, obviously, but their best. They really only have one point guard from a ball handling standpoint, and that's Dragic. You got Nash, who I think one thing that's important when we talk about these all-time teams, the role that Nash plays in making everybody around him better. I think he's done that better than anybody in the NBA ever, unless you want to argue Magic, which I would accept that argument all day. But I think that it's hard to find somebody who statistically has made certain players all-stars or got them big contracts to leave Phoenix to go someplace else to play, and they never reproduce those numbers. Now, I understand system has something to do with that as well, with D'Antoni and what they did, but Nash created that for a lot. He creates good shots. Shooting percentage of every shooter he ever played with was higher playing with him than with any other team. And I think that that's a huge difference maker. I think that the size that they have, and again, I think Marley is underrated. You could go KJ and Nash in there and have explosiveness. You can throw Marley in there. I think Marley was clearly a dynamic player, but I thought he was probably underrated for his defense as well. So I like the Suns team. And then Devin Booker averages like 26, 4+ rebounds, and I think close to 7 assists a game. He is phenomenal. I think he starts over Glenn Rice, to be honest, on that Heat team. And I love Glenn Rice, but Glenn Rice was what a lot of older NBA, you know how I love to talk about older NBA. My thing is I think there was more specialty players back then. I think now people are, you're 6'9" and you're dribbling the ball. Back then, he shot, he spot up, he was a shooter. I just think that there's more depth on that team.
Coach Conroy?
Yeah, I guess when I look at the two rosters, and even as much as everybody wants to criticize today's NBA and say there isn't great ball movement, I think that when you watch over the past 10 years, even still the NBA champions, when it comes down to crunch time, it's not all just one-on-one. There's a lot of ball movement, guys spotting up around the floor. So when I look at that Suns roster, I see 2, 3, maybe even 4 guys that are great at moving the ball, and I think they can get the stops they need against that against the Heat team. And so I think the Suns, just because of the fact that you have guys that are going to get the ball to the right people at the right time in the right place. I know we haven't talked coaching, but I guess I'd throw out there, and not that I'm totally against it. I think the game should be played fast, but I think if you didn't have D'Antoni coaching them, and maybe that is who would have been coaching this group, somebody who's going to play to the strength of Nash and Johnson and let them set guys up and not get the ball across half court and take a shot in the first, on one pass. I don't know. I think that team with Chambers and Marley, and just to reiterate what you guys have said, I don't know. I think they're pretty deep, and I think they're pretty skilled at every position. I don't think defensively they'd be hurt that bad.
Coach Borgman, anything to add?
No, I get, you guys had mentioned how a couple people off the bench for the Suns are a little bit underrated. I know Ayton's a little bit young still, so, I don't have a good, feel for him yet, but I'm staying where I'm at. I mean, I think it'd be a great series, but I just, in my head, in the NBA, I think it's about superstars. And I know there's star power with the Suns, but I just think it's really going to pivot around D Wade. And, he's a winner. And, maybe I feel like I like Glenn Rice, and maybe I overrate him because of that. But I also like Eddie Jones, so I feel like there's depth in the Heat's lineup as well. So, I'm okay. I'm sure I'm wrong a lot of times, probably more than I'm right. But I'm going to stick with this one. I still like the Heat, and I'm going with it. But maybe they lose the series in 7. I don't know.
Boy, these hypothetical things would be fun, though. If some way we could do it, bring them back, it would be fun. So the 3-1 Suns win. They move on, and they will play the winner of, the 20 seed, the Magic, who beat the 13 seed Pacers in the first round, versus the 4 seed Jazz. So,
hey, when you do simulate that, you got to let me know how that game plays out, though.
No simulation. That was a pain in the butt. The Magic's roster, you've got Penny, Nick Anderson, Tracy McGrady, Turkoglu, Dwight Howard, Gritty Gutty, Jamar Nelson, D. Scott, Aaron Gordon, and help me out. Vucevic. And for the Jazz, I think they're actually, they're up here. For the Jazz, they've got Stockton, Donovan Mitchell, Dantley, Karl Malone, Rudy, D. Will, Karolinko, Hornacek, Favors, and Eaton. Now, didn't we say, I forget, what did we talk about last time with the Jazz? I thought Eaton wasn't going to play, or did we talk about someone else for them? I forget. I know that Eaton got a ton of minutes in the simulation, that he would not be on the court for Coach Feinborn, and I would agree with him. I would probably, I would stick with 3, and even maybe go small ball if need be. Karl Malone at the 5 as his positionist type of basketball. So I start this one first. This one, wow. Okay, I really like the Magic. With, like I said, their athleticism, but Jazz, once again, they've got a really good, and actually they're right there together, so we don't have to go back and forth. So, once again, it's about matchups. Magic with how are you going to match up? Mitchell's not a super big guard, so they're going to have problems with Penny right away. Nick Anderson, once again, good scorer. Tracy McGrady, and back in, he was a elite scorer. They got Turkoglu, Howard inside, some guys off the bench that can play with Aaron Gordon and Yeah, guy starts with V. D. Scott can shoot the ball. This one's an interesting one. I know the Jazz are awful good. D. Will and Stockton playing the point, but this comes down to matchups. Ooh, I don't know. I'd like to hear what you guys say. I want to hear what you guys say because I don't know where to go on this one. So I'm gonna go back to Mark here, and then let me decide since I talked about nothing there. Mark, what do you got?
Scroll down just a little bit. Who fills out the Magic roster? Who's the last? Oh, it's Vucevic. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, the Magic, they're a little bit light on the bench and kind of small, right? I don't know how they're going to match up. But go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
That's what we talked about last week because they had, two smaller. I said I don't know if I'm playing both Scotty and Jameer, but I think that was matchup. I don't remember who was. It doesn't matter, but I think it was because of the first round matchup. But I still like this team. Dennis Scott is still in one of the all-time spot-up three guys. I just think the dynamic of having a Hardaway and McGrady on the floor together, because I think Rudy and Dwight are going to cancel each other in a sense. You got two really good defensive. Again, we're getting Dwight in Orlando, not Dwight anytime after that.
Sure.
Right? Okay.
True.
So, you still got a guy that can score. Well, he could score then, but was great defensively, double guy. But you got Penny. I know that I love Stockton, and I know what he's done and means, but you're talking about length and athleticism to go along with that. And again, Tracy McGrady, and I think we brought up last week the whole thing where he scored the however many points in 30 seconds, and that is my forever healthy. Tracy McGrady is an all-time great player. Again, career was cut short. I might go with the Magic in this one just because of that. And Aaron Gordon, again, a great two-way player, very dynamic, big, strong, athletic wing. We're going to have to guard the pick and roll, obviously. I think that that we can counter that, though, and I feel that there's just a lot of athleticism and size. And shooting, again, from Nick to Tracy to Turgaloo to Scott Skiles. Even Jameer shot it well. Dennis Scott, Aaron Gordon. Vucevic can shoot the three. There's just a lot of three-point shooting, and we all know that shooting solves a lot of problems if you have shot makers. So.
For sure. Coach Conroy.
Hey, scroll up to that Jazz roster for a minute.
Yeah, we're gonna.
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate with Coach Beinborn just a little bit, have a little bit of fun here. So, but when we look at the Jazz roster, and